And welcome to another edition of Two Steps Ahead Podcast. Two Steps Ahead Podcast encouraging you to take your passion, make it happen. Let yourself be great. I'm Son Edelman. Coming up on the show, I've got a special guest joining me. In fact, he was a former student of mine when I was teaching college radio broadcasting. Now, he's a guy that delves into a lot of wrestling and also football, both American and international. So both the Americanized football and the international football. And he goes by Josterio when he's talking about wrestling. And then when it comes to World Cup, and you'll get a better understanding of why he goes by this name, but is John Jermoxican. And so I welcome you to the show. And I guess the first thing, let's talk about American football, because we've got a lot going on there real quick. And tell us a little bit about your team, first off.
The Raiders. After the whole turmoil last year with John Gruden getting fired for invasion of privacy that the NFL did to him, two of our first round picks being unfortunate criminals. Well, one of them just showed off a illegal gun, and the other one unfortunately killed. We're talking about Henry Ruggs and Arnett, those two. We made the playoffs for John Madden because John Madden sadly passed away last year. Iconic man for Monday Night Football for Fox and everything. And now this year we have Josh McDaniels, who I was not aware that this was the guy that led 6-0 with the Broncos one year, and then everything went to HE double hockey sticks, as they say. So the Raiders, this time, they're still alive. They're somehow still alive. But the other teams, like the Dolphins, I believe it's also the Ravens, which is going to be a big miracle to us. But that game, I said from the beginning, regardless if the Raiders failed to make the playoffs, if we take down both the Patriots and the Steelers, and by miracle the 49ers, even though they're ranked the number one defense in the NFL, I'll be happy that season. And lo and behold, we got an early Christmas present. The Patriots now know what it's like to get screwed over. What they did to us.
Now, you've got the Raiders that originally were located in Oakland. Then they moved to L.A. Then they moved back to Oakland. Now they're in Las Vegas. So They had success when they were actually in Los Angeles, you know. So they've had success everywhere they've gone. They haven't quite had that success that they're looking for in Las Vegas that they've had both in Oakland and Los Angeles, winning Super Bowls and stuff. First off, Carr, the quarterback, Derek Carr, is he a Super Bowl winning champion? And the reason why I ask you that is because, you know, the Vikings were having a very good season. They got the assistant coach, the offensive coordinator from the Rams last year that won the Super Bowl. But I don't think Kirk Cousins is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And so I ask you, though, is Derek Carr a Super Bowl winning type quarterback that could lead Las Vegas? Because you guys got, with Josh Jacobs, the running back, you've got some, you know, pretty good offensive talent there. Is he the guy to lead the Raiders to a Super Bowl?
A short answer, yes. It's just the problem is you have with Carr is that a lot of the times when he throws the ball, he doesn't. He overestimates whether or not Renfro, who's like Messi's height, like the soccer player that won the World Cup. So, but he can jump. But I don't think. The problem is when he jumps, sometimes you can't grab hold of the ball. But him and Adams, who were, if you remember this, son, they were both teammates in Fresno State. Both Carr and Devontae Adams, they've been doing fine. Waller came back after being injured for like almost the entire season. And what happened? He scores a touchdown. But the thing that's not really Carr's fault, even though that after they have like a 13-point lead, everything goes the heck with them because you see what happens. They get 13 points and then 4 straight games, they lose it. They lose it in the second half, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So that was always like the Vikings. I mean, the Vikings, they would always lose in the second half. And in fact, just recently they were down 33-0. I actually turned the game up because I was like,
I went to go turn it on like the last few minutes, and I didn't watch the rest of the game because I was taking care of a neighbor's dog. And lo and behold, I see later it went to overtime, and oh my God, the Vikings. came back and won that game. Possibly the biggest miracle. Where is U.S. Bank Stadium located? I know it's in Minnesota, but what's the name of the street?
Yeah, I don't know what street it is, but it's like you said, it's the miracle on whatever that street would be, because it just was the biggest comeback in NFL history.
Yeah,
and 33 points is crazy.
And you know what's ironic? Guess who the quarterback of the Colts was on, and he literally had made history for the wrong reasons.
Was that was it Matt Ryan?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like it. No, go ahead.
No, they was going to talk about, and they had talked about, that this could have been a defining game for the Colts. And so when they got up, and Matt Ryan, like you said, and so when they got up to 33-0, everyone thought that, this was, the typical Vikings collapse. Kirk Cousins not a great quarterback. The Rams aren't for real. I mean, the Vikings aren't for real, and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden they had this great comeback because they've got, they actually got some really good receivers too, and Dalvin Cook at the running back position. But I don't know, I thought it was just kind of and then like you said, so you had the Vikings come back from their win, from their 33-point deficit to win. You had the Patriots, whom at the time when they were doing all those laterals, I thought they were behind. I didn't realize that they were tied. And so they gave the game away. You had the Cowboys throw that pick that was kind of the receiver kind of bobbled it and was picked for a return for a touchdown. You had Tom Brady up at the half, and then the Bengals came storming. So you had probably one of the most exciting weekends in football this past weekend.
Yeah, but I want to also add, for the first time in the history of Tom Brady's career, he has 8 games losing.
Yeah, and he might still make the playoffs at 7-9 if the cards work out right for him.
Yeah, I know. But I do want to finish with the Carr thing real fast. Now, he is a winning quarterback, because if you have paid attention throughout his career, he has done well when the Raiders have to come back in like the last 2 minutes of something, of a game. And sometimes it doesn't work, but the majority of the time, 80% of the time, he tends to always pull it off. And here's the thing with Carr. Like I said, the one problem I finally did see after years of defending this guy is that he relies too much on almost the same people. And I know that's a weird criticism, because you're supposed to give it to somebody that you know, but when you do it too many times, people are going to read it. Like, he got picked off on one of the drives because he was going to send it to Devontae Adams, and one of the defensive players of the Patriots read the call, grabbed the ball before Adams could even do anything. And yeah, that's the thing. Now, I do want to talk about how the Patriots screwed up this game. Like, for 20 years, son, even though I became a Raider fan in 2011, I understood why the tuck rule still hurts Raider fans, because it's what made Tom Brady, because if that didn't happen, if the tuck rule went the other way around, Tom Brady would not have been the starting quarterback for the Patriots. It was going to be Bledsoe, I believe that was his name, who was with the Patriots at the time. But yeah, look what happened. So here's what happened. The Raiders lost the 13-point lead again, and they were down, and they had like 2 minutes left, literally, to try to tie this game. And Carr threw this ball to Cole, and when Cole landed, everyone said it was a touchdown, but it took 5 minutes. 5 minutes to talk to New York, the referees to New York. And when that happens, that means either A, it's going to go our way, or B, they're going to screw us over again. And lo and behold, he got it. And yeah, his foot was on close. It was close. If I was a referee in that position, I don't know if I could overturn that, because you need significant evidence. And when that happened, Patriot fans online were all crying, "Oh, we're getting screwed. And everyone from the Raider fan base goes, "Now you know how it feels to get screwed." And then you talk about that play, Chandler Jones, who stiff-armed Matt Jones in the face. I don't know what the Patriots were thinking. I think they thought, maybe we could do what the Dolphins did to us. If you remember that miracle game that the Dolphins did against the Patriots, which the Patriots won the Super Bowl that year, but people will never let down what the Dolphins did with that miracle lateral pass game. And this was not needed. I was ready for overtime. I was screaming my head off for Chandler Jones to keep running and running. Got a headache in the process, but worth it. And this actually puts the Patriots in a terrible spot because their last 3 games, 2 of them is against the Dolphins, and the last game is against the Bills.
Yeah, that's going to be a couple of tough matchups. And then don't forget, remember I think there was some scandal with the Commanders, wasn't it? The Redskins, the Commanders, and their game with the Giants at the end with that touchdown or something?
Okay. So here's what I didn't. I was actually once again dog sitting on that day, and I didn't get to watch the whole. Oh no! I was actually playing soccer that day for a rec league, and I did have the game on in the goal. Like I had my phone in there, and since there were no rules technically, no, this was a professional league, amateur league, as they say. It's just if you put your phone in there, if it gets cracked, that's not on us. So I was watching it, but I was at 10% battery. And I'm like, the Commanders are going to win this game. So I turned it off. I come home. The game is still on. And then I'm seeing the replay of that call so it was pass interference to me. I'm like, oh my God, this is the Saints and Rams all over again. You remember that game, right? In the playoffs.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm looking at it. I'm like, why aren't the refs calling this? And I looked at it again and I'm like, even on the lowest level of a Madden game, that is pass interference big time. And yeah, the Commanders got screwed, and I felt bad for them. I really did, because they were actually becoming a good team behind the Cowboys and the Eagles. But now I don't know what their remaining schedule is, but all I know is that they need to win those last 3 games, and if they don't, they're gone. They're gone. And I think this will be Ron Rivera's last season with them. I think he's on the chopping block.
Now, you mentioned you're playing soccer, goalie at soccer. International Football World Cup just completed.
Oh, yeah.
And Argentina wins the World Cup. Now, going into World Cup, I thought that it would be more of a traditional style World Cup. Like you'd have Brazil, you would have Germany, you would have England in there, obviously France, who was trying to repeat as World Cup champion. So I thought it was going to be kind of a typical World Cup with all of these traditional powerhouses in there, maybe Italy. But it didn't turn out that way. Yeah. Even though Argentina pulled off the victory, I believe, for their second World Cup, the Final Four turned out to be pretty, third World Cup. So it turned out to be pretty unique from the standpoint of you had Morocco in there, which is part of your Germoxican. Tell us about the Germoxican aspect of Morocco.
So there was an incident like back in 2009 where I was having this one kid she was a girl, by the way. And yes, she was older than me. She was like harassing me for some reason. And long story short, things were said. She said something that was really bad and I got sent to the office, and turns out I found out that from my parents that, Joseph, you're part of North Africa. And I'm like, what? Yeah, you're Moroccan. And I'm like, what? On my dad's side, my great grandmother came from Morocco, and yeah, but I didn't think too much of it because Morocco at the time didn't return to the World Cup since the last time they were there was in '98. So but then they came back in 2018. Kind of went okay for them, not really. But then in 2022, that's where all things happened. Also, I am Mexican on my dad's side as well, and German on my mom's side. But of course, the team I will always cheer for is the country I was born and raised in. This country right here. But before we get into those teams, John, let's talk about Qatar getting the World Cup and what the controversies were, which was started from the beginning. So they get announced in late 2010 to be the host of this little Jimmy right here, the FIFA World Cup. And everyone that all went, oh my God, why is it going to the Middle East? It shouldn't go to the Middle East. Look what they did to the woman. Look what the human rights violations and all that. And I was on the same boat with everybody. Why is it going to a country where in the summer it's gonna? You know that song Arabian Nights from Aladdin?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
There's a reason why they say the heat is intense, because the heat is intense. So 4 years ago, we got confirmation that they were moving the World Cup from summer to the winter, and everyone cried out that this is not fair. Like, the World Cup is meant to be a summer tournament, not a winter tournament. And then you have the human rights violations. I think you were aware of that during the time, and there were documentaries of it, and I was like, is this really all worth for a tournament where a country that hasn't done well in soccer should have it? But then I remembered people were saying that to us back in 1989 when the World Cup was awarded to USA for 1994, and everyone judged us because we haven't been to the World Cup since 1950, but then Paul Caligari sent us to 1990 Italy with that goal heard around the world against Trinidad and Tobago in qualifying, and everyone shut their mouths. And in 94, and the World Cup did well in 94, and we got the MLS for that too, because the North American Soccer League was gone, and then thanks to the World Cup, we got the MLS back and everything. But here's the difference. We didn't force migrant workers from Nepal, from other countries, and we put them in these encampments. Well, there weren't really encampments. They were slums in a way. And a lot of them ended up dropping dead. About over 5,000 deaths happened, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, it is blood money when you look at it. But at the end of the day, FIFA couldn't really overturn it because they were already changing the guard because of the FBI raids that were going on. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. But I think for future reference, unless the Middle East would start improving on their things, because we are going to get to one of the matches that I thought was really significant, and it does involve USA. But at the end of the day, I think let me start with the good with Qatar. There was no alcohol allowed in stadiums, which, yeah, of course, it made a lot of people mad. But when you look at it, nobody got kicked out of the stadiums. No, especially English and Welsh fans, mostly, because they're the ones that majority get drunk in the stadiums and get kicked out. But they were given also the Fair Play Award as well, because they didn't cause any problems, because they're the ones that mostly start the stuff, but not this time. I think but there was alcohol sold, but it was at the fan zones. And you want to know how much a beer costs you, Mike, son?
Yes, maybe $30 American.
$22.50.
Oh, was it 20? For some reason 22 was in my head, but I was thinking maybe it was a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, that's crazy. But you're right. There wasn't any incidences from fans. There wasn't any incident. There was some thought of maybe terrorist attacks. There was nothing like that. There was some other thoughts of maybe some other things happening. So all in all, when you take a look at the tournament overall, it actually went off pretty successful, considering all the stuff that you had mentioned.
Yeah, 172 goals scored, the highest ever for any FIFA World Cup, and 5 matches going into penalties, the highest ever for. And yeah, shockingly, 2018 and 2022, with Russia and Qatar being controversial hosts, surprisingly, they defied expectations. And yeah, they're considered by many people as, despite being controversial, the best FIFA World Cups in the past, at the end of the 2010s and the beginning of the 2020s. So the
other thing too, it makes me wonder, because everybody's kind of like in America. You got college football, right, and then you've got pro football. But in college football, even let's say people, women, men, doesn't matter. They don't have any interest in sports. Let's say specific. Okay, they don't care about sports, but they will go and they'll watch their college football team, their alma mater play, and they'll support their alma mater. They probably can't tell you what's going on, but they want them to win, and they'll go to the games. On the flip side of that, you've got international competitions like the Olympics, and you've got like World Cup and some of these other things where you've got now the country is what you're pulling for. It's for your country, whether it's your birth country or whether it's the country that you're in, or maybe become a fan of a country because of how they do in the competition. And so it goes kind of beyond just sports and fandom for sports. You've got people that are rooting because of something bigger and follow the sport. And I think someone said, or I read somewhere, that World Cup is like the biggest watched or the most watched international sport, even above the Olympics, because everybody pretty much, no matter what interest or lack of interest you have in sports in general, everybody is into the World Cup because the countries are involved. And that makes it a national pride thing.
Yeah, 4 billion people watched it. So yeah, there you go. And so I do want to start off with this, how I felt like, how did Qatar, the host nation, do compared to other countries that hosted the World Cup? Long story short, they are the first host country, also the second to fail to get out of the group stage, but they're the first host country to come in last place. And that, believe it or not, I did feel bad for Qatar. I did. I felt bad for the host team, but for a lot of people, they said that this was karmic justice because of what Qatar does with human rights violations and all that, which I will agree with, but I also want to point out now I do have to bring up something here. So before we get more into the World Cup, we got to talk about what happened to one of the greatest U.S. journalists of all time, who, if you remember, if you ever seen more than a game, he actually covered LeBron James. And we are talking about journalist Grant Wahl, who sadly passed away at the age of 48. And the shocking thing is he died during Argentina versus Netherlands. And of course, there were people that were speculating that he was killed because he wore a rainbow shirt with a soccer ball on the bottom, and his brother, who was LGBTQA, felt that he was killed because of that. But his wife, who works for the Biden administration, was the one that exhumed his body, like did the autopsy. That must have been horrible for her, to be honest with you. And she came out and said that he died because of an aortic problem. And yeah, I think that put to rest a lot of conspiracy theories, but here's what I'll say. At least no one got killed in Qatar, unlike what happened in Russia when protesters invaded the field. There was poisonings that happened to those protesters. It's well documented. So there you go. And I do feel bad that Grant Wahl died 48. And funny thing, son, I actually met him in 2015 at the Women's World Cup final between Japan and USA in BC Place Stadium in Canada. And guy's tall. The guy is tall. And I couldn't believe I met him. And it does hurt that I'm never going to see this guy again.
One of the things, too, that kind of came out of it, talking about writers, is that there were a lot of positive pieces that were written about the World Cup, too. And so, all in all, I think everybody, minus this experience that you're talking about, the loss of Wahl, and then I think there might have been one other person that passed away as well. But outside of that, those were kind of the only two things that really set back a great World Cup action this year.
Yeah, it was a sad footnote, but overall the tournament has been great, and I gotta say it was that final. I don't think any games from this point on for a long time are going to top what happened in that final, because you got Argentina leading 2-0 at halftime, and in the last 15 minutes of the game, France, the same guy, Mbappe, puts first he puts a penalty, then one of the goals of the tournament where it never touched the ground until he scored it. And then it goes to the extra time. Argentina go on the lead again with goal line technology, awarding them the goal. And I didn't know it was Messi that scored his second goal of the game until after it was confirmed. But then a few minutes later, another penalty given for France. Mbappe, same way he goes. And the goalkeeper went the other way this time. And yeah, free. Then we go into penalties. Mbappe goes the same way again. Messi scores first too. So now it's up to the other players who don't have the number 10s on their back to literally put the game away. And Argentina, they defied expectations, and there you go.
To me, one of the most exciting sitting on the edge of your seat, nail-biting experiences in all of sports is Game 7, Stanley Cup, overtime. Next goal wins. And in hockey, the action is quick. The puck is flying. It could be deflected. You're on the edge of your seat, at least I am when I'm watching it, because that is exciting hockey. So you just never know what's going to happen, because it could just be in a flash and the puck goes into the net and someone's winning. I think that happened, when the Kings won it. They're at the, their second time I think they won.
Yeah, 2014.
There was that deflection, and all of a sudden the game was over, and people were trying to register. People hadn't registered that the goal had scored, because that's how fast the action is. Do you think that World Cup in these type of situations, penalty kicks is a good way to go? Or do you think they should have extended play and make them earn it on the field and kick a goal?
No. Answer is no. Quick no, because the problem is that you're going to have too many injuries with people's biceps and legs. They're going to get hamstrings if they keep going and going. Because I think the NCAA also took note of this. But they did change one rule when they went into extra time. Automatic sudden death golden goal. They still use that system. But in the World Cup, I think they realized that this wasn't technically fair. Plus, there was that incident with Greece, who shockingly won the Euro in 2004 against Portugal, and we're going to get to Portugal very soon too. I think because of that, they went, we can't have golden goal, we can't have silver goal anymore. Whatever happens at extra time, and if it's still tied, we go to a penalty shootout. Just a reminder, the MLS did try a new shootout system where you start midway from your opponent's field and you have 6 seconds to go and score a goal. So you're going one-on-one with the goalkeeper. A lot of people thought it was a joke, but now there's some people that are thinking maybe we should try that option, but we're probably never going to get that back. But I do want to talk about the group stage real fast. Actually, no, let's talk about the group stage, because that's where all the excitement starts from the beginning.
First off, before we get to group stage, okay, you're going into the tournament, right? Okay, group stage. Like you said, Germany, Morocco, and Mexico.
And one more.
Well, then, of course, U.S. But of those 3, because we kind of figured the U.S., although we didn't expect the U.S. to have to go to the final game and then get some help to get in. But of those 3, 4, did you ever imagine that Germany and Mexico would be the 2 teams that were bounced going into knockout stage?
All right. So with Germany, I think I didn't think. So here's the thing. When they were facing Japan, when they scored that penalty that they got, I actually went back to sleep because this was at like 2 or 5 in the morning. And that was the one downside of this World Cup. I couldn't watch all the games because getting up at 2 in the morning was a pain. It was. That's why I'm glad it's coming here, and we'll get to that. But then when I woke up, I heard that Japan scored one of the greatest goals, and I rewatched it, and I'm like, what the heck is going on with Germany here? This is the second time they're going to lose the opening match again, because they lost to Mexico 4 years prior, and then they did poor against Spain, and then even though they won against Costa Rica 4-2, ironically the same scoreline they beat Costa Rica with in 2006 when they hosted the World Cup at that time. The thing is, I had a feeling Germany was not going to succeed because a lot of these new kids were coming in. Some of the old guard was already old guard, and they weren't going to be that machine. Their nickname is the Mindset, means machine. And the problem is you have to build up a new machine. You can't just do it again. And for them to go out like that again after what happened 4 years ago when they were the defending champions, now I'm just going to say this. There's a strong possibility they're going to end up like Italy, because Italy, after they won the World Cup in 2006, they went out in 2010. Went out again in 2014, didn't qualify for 2018. and they didn't qualify for 2022. I have a feeling, even though the World Cup is going to be extended to 48 teams with 16 teams from Europe getting a spot, I have a strong feeling that Germany, unless the Euro, which is in Germany in 2024, less than 2 years from now, unless they show promise. But remember, Italy won the Euro too, and look what happened to Italy. They went out again. So I have a bad feeling Germany's going to suffer the same fate unless they change something. And let's get to Mexico. This was the most heartbreaking out of all of them because going into the tournament, a lot of Mexican fans had low expectations because the coach, Tata Martino, who any Atlanta United fans who you have on your show, who listen to your show, know that he was the one that got you the MLS Cup after 3 years of being in the league. So, and we thought somehow he's going to get this team through. So the game against Poland, honestly, Mexico could have beat Poland, but the story of that game was 37-year-old Memo Ochoa, one of my favorite goalkeepers of all time of Mexico, stopped Robert Lewandowski's penalty. And yeah, it was a 0-0 draw. Wish there was more of it, but but when Argentina lost to Saudi Arabia, every Mexican fan had hopes because it just showed maybe this is the year we finally take down Argentina. And it kind of looked that way. We started off strong. There was a blown call that the referee missed where some Argentinian players spiked the back of the foot of one of the Mexican players. But the one problem with this World Cup was the refereeing was 50-50. There was a lot of bad refereeing in this tournament. And then Messi scored the goal in the second half, and then Argentina went on to win 2-0. Now we have to take down Saudi Arabia, and we had to score 3 goals while Messi had to save Mexico in a way to get them through. But nope, we may have beaten Saudi Arabia with one of the best free kick goals I have seen in years from Mexico. It ended 2-1, and for the first time since 1982, Mexico has failed to get out of the first round.
Yeah, I think it's been, I don't know if it's ever happened with Mexico and Germany not being there. You take a look at, a lot of people look at Croatia, and I think they forget. Wasn't it they beat France? I mean, France beat Croatia last time to win the World Cup. I mean, Croatia's been a pretty good team, even though you don't really hear about them. But Morocco, first time that an African country made the Final Four.
Yeah, and so shockingly again, I missed 2 of Morocco's games, but not the second one. I saw the last 10 minutes. Thankfully, I got up for it, where they took down number 2 ranked Belgium. That was unheard of because Belgium, they were the golden generation. But Kevin De Bruyne, I don't know who is his writer, should not have said the following thing, and this is what he said. We are not going to do well in this tournament. Why would you say that of all circumstances? So here's how Morocco started. They went 0-0 with Croatia, the runner-ups. That's nothing to bark at. And the goalkeeper, Bono, he shortened his name on the back of his jersey to Bono. So no, he's not the U2 front man. He doesn't have those alien glasses that Bono always has. And no, he did very well in that, and he did very well in this game. I saw the highlights after, and I just couldn't believe the saves this guy made. I just couldn't believe it. And then in the last game, they took down Canada, who I briefly want to talk about because they're in the same group here. Everyone expected Canada to be the underdog, the true Cinderella story, they were praised for their loss against Belgium because Belgium only beat them 1-0, and there was a missed penalty. Alphonso Davies missed the penalty, and there was supposed to be a second penalty given to them, but the referee, for some reason, didn't give it to them. Everyone thought, oh, it was a great performance. Then, in the first 2 minutes, of the game between Canada and Croatia, Alphonso Davies headed the ball inside the box to give Canada not only their first ever goal in the FIFA World Cup, but their first ever goal against any team. It was shocking, but then Croatia came back and eliminated them 4-1, and then they lost. Now we get back to Morocco. Morocco took them down 2-1, and then Morocco went up against Spain, and everyone thought this was it. No, Morocco's not going to go far because, ironically, the last time Morocco won the group stage was in 1986 Mexico. And one of their opponents in that group, they're going to end up meeting later after this game, was Portugal. And yeah, they won that group, and I believe they lost to West Germany at the time because Germany was still divided at the time. But yeah, and then this game was 0-0. Spain had multiple chances to send Morocco home. And on the last play of the game, Spain had this ball. Literally, he shot it, and it clipped the left side upright, if I'm not mistaken, and it went out. And then it went to penalties, and then I'm watching it with my dad, and my dad is going, no, Spain's going to get this. Spain, 4 years ago, against the host nation Russia, went out on penalties. That was declared one of the biggest upsets because Russia was ranked 66 in the world at the time against Spain, who was in the top 10. And when Spain missed all those penalties, and Morocco scored 2 of them, did they score? They scored 3. And it was the first time a goalkeeper stood out a team since the Ukrainian goalkeeper in 2006 against Switzerland. That's how iconic it was. This goalkeeper, Bono, did something that has taken almost 20 years to get accomplished. And yeah, Morocco went through, and they were going against Portugal. And we all thought the final, everyone pegged the final, Argentina versus Portugal, because you had Messi and Ronaldo, the 2 of the greatest, if not the greatest, of the 21st century. And for some reason, Portugal decided to start Ronaldo on the bench, but given what was going on with Ronaldo at the time, I started seeing the cracks, and a lot of Ronaldo fans were saying there were no cracks. He couldn't play a full game anymore. Something was wrong with him. And it turns out back in 2014, he suffered a bad injury. Never mind the noise. Bad injury to his Achilles tendon, and he still played with it in 2014. And the doctor said that he could still play soccer, but he can't do tactical moves anymore. He could only be a target shooter. So there's that. And he's 37 at the time of this recording. And when they were down, and I swear I had to replay this goal because I thought I was dreaming it. Morocco, one of their players, jumped higher than the goalkeeper to head this ball in to give them 1-0, and then they put Ronaldo in the game. And Ronaldo's last shot on goal was saved by Bono. And then when the whistle blew, no one could believe that Morocco, 22 ranked in the world, took down Portugal, a team that everyone wanted to see in the final with Messi.
Yeah, I mean, you take down Spain and Portugal and come out of that pool play anyways, and then beat those 2 guys, those 2 teams, you're looking at a pretty significant advancement from a team. What is more shocking? Morocco making it that far? I guess they finished, I guess they lost to Croatia, so I guess technically, 4th? Yeah. Morocco making it that way, or Brazil getting bounced? Because Brazil was the favorite and the number 1 team, and they didn't even make it out of pool play. What was bigger? Morocco? A bigger story, Morocco or Brazil?
I got to talk about Brazil, man. No, I will give credit to Brazil as much as I despise this team. I already told you, before we had this conversation, we're not going to dwell on why I don't like Brazil that much. Well, turns out Brazil, even though every Brazilian wants them to win, there are people outside of Brazil that don't want this team winning anymore because they won everything. They won the Copa America. It's like the CONCACAF Gold Cup, but with South American teams, even though we get invited most of the time. They won the Olympics back to back for the first time in 2016 in their home. Neymar was the one that scored that game-winning penalty, and in 2020, where they played in front of no fans because Japan, I'll give credit to Japan. They just didn't want the virus to come back in their country. And we'll get to Japan too, because they have a shocking story as well. But Brazil, that goal from Richarlison, I don't know if you ever saw the highlight of this. It's where he did that scissor/bicycle move against Serbia. And that's already officially the goal of the tournament. I watched the results. Yeah, goal of the tournament, and I can't blame him. But I wasn't celebrating. I was like angry. Come on, Serbia. You had 4 years to learn Brazil's tacticals. But, sir, here's the thing. 2 teams played scared against Brazil because they were scared of them. This team did not lose a single game during qualifying. And Switzerland, they were the only team for 4 years ago to tie against them in the group stage. They couldn't do it again, 1-0. And one of my favorite games that I'm going to mention here was Brazil versus Cameroon. Brazil played their B squad, but they were still putting shots on Cameroon. Cameroon barely got that many shots. And then in stoppage time, Abu Bakar, that's his name, got across from one of his teammates, and this was in stoppage time. He headed the ball into the goal, takes off his shirt to celebrate, even though he was already on a yellow card, and the referee from the U.S., who was one of the best referees of this tournament, I kind of wish he reffed the final because he actually had no baggage. There was no issues with him. Players have all stated that this U.S. ref was the best ref of the tournament, and he had no choice. He was smiling at Abu Bakar. He told him, "Hey, I'm sorry, man. I got to do this." He gave him a yellow and then a red, and Abu Bakar went like, "All right." But for the first time in the history, an African team took down Brazil. And when that goal was scored, I didn't care if it was a B team. Brazil's weakness was exposed. Their defense, who hadn't done anything through the first 2 games, there was weakness. And I thought South Korea was gonna give me an early Christmas present, but no, I was disappointed. They lost 4-1 with South Korea scoring one of the best goals of the tournament as well. And then we get to Brazil versus Croatia. I'm sorry, I just gotta say, I got to start from the beginning with these teams because there is a story to how everything went down here. So now we get to Brazil versus Croatia. I'm literally in my room going, please, God, give me a miracle today. Don't let Brazil. But the thing is, the reason why I wasn't fully against Brazil is because I don't know if you heard the story. Pele is actually suffering from colon cancer, and there were rumors that they moved him to end of life care, which I'm amazed I ever heard of that. But no, he ended up tweeting that he's fine. They're working on him. I guess there was some miscommunication with the media, and of course they were playing this for Pele. They wanted to give him one more World Cup before he goes because Diego Maradona sadly passed away 2 years ago and didn't get to see Argentina lift the trophy. So Brazil, this game, all Brazil, 90% of shots on goal, possession and everything. Croatia was just hanging on by playing defense. And then in extra time, Neymar, who found the roof of the net, and trust me, I was mad when he scored, but I even had to say it quietly. I think that was one of Neymar's best goals ever, where he roofed it to the top. And then in the second half, I don't know how Croatia got this shot on goal, but then I'll get to how the shootout played a factor in this. Croatia, one of their subs who just came off the bench, shot the ball. It deflected off one of the defenders, Marquinhos, and Alisson Becker, as much as he tried, couldn't reach it. Croatia tied the game. And then it goes to a shootout. Croatia, for the second time in the tournament, because in the round of 16, they took out Japan after the score was 1-1 and it went to a shootout. Japan, once again, cannot win on penalties. I don't know what their issue is. They're acting like the New England, and we'll get to England too. And Croatia, all their penalties were perfect. Brazil missed the first one, and then it came down to Marquinhos, the guy who had the ball deflect off his leg to go into the goal, and he shoots it. Goalkeeper goes the wrong way, hits the post, and you could hear the sound of it hitting the post because everyone was silent. And the moment that happened, he fell to the ground, and he was the one Brazilian in that game I felt horrible for because a deflected shot went in off him and he misses the penalty. Brazil go out to Croatia for the first time ever. Every time Brazil met Croatia, it has been Brazil all the way. So this was not only sweet revenge for the Croatians, but it's and only 2 teams in the World Cup who have won multiple penalty shootouts. One is Germany. Now it's Croatia. This is an elite squad, regardless of where they finished. It was just insane how they took out Brazil. And Brazil just cannot beat European teams. They were able to beat two of them in the group stage, but when it comes to the knockout stage, they can't do it. They just can't beat them.
Now, a couple things I want to get to before we wrap up. One is how Team USA, your thoughts on Team USA playing. And then two, I want to find out from you the best player. You mentioned a few. Obviously, Pele, Maradona is from Argentina, Ronaldo, Messi, the Mbappe guy that, there's some different awards that were given out as well. And so first, let's start with how did you think Team USA did? They came in, they were expected to, I don't know what they were really expected to do. I figured they would at least get second in their pool play, which they did, and ended up losing the Netherlands in the first round of the knockout. But I think it took them a little bit harder, whichever, because I think they were going into their third and final match where they needed to at least tie and then maybe get some help as well. So it wasn't an easy road for them either, was it?
No. And let's quickly start with the beginning with USA. There was that controversial thing I want to talk about real fast. The whole switching the US logo with the Pride logo that turned out to not be the case. That was just people wanting to start controversy. They had it at their training facility. They had both this flag and the Pride version that they wore. They never wore it during training. It was just to support LGBT, which is, there's no problem with that. It's just they were doing it in a country that has, that problem with LGBT people, but they did warn LGBT fans, please do not show affection because the people outside the fan zones are not going to be happy. But there were no reports of problems at all. Yeah, there was that streaker that was there with that, but that nothing bad happened to him. But going into the game against Wales, when they scored first, I think that was a relief from everybody because they were like, this is a new generation. There was no way that they're going to get through. They're not going to perform well. Even though they ended up getting a penalty scored on them, they still performed well. The game against England was the shock, one of the shocks, and then we'll get to Iran in a second because they held off one of the top 10 teams to win the World Cup in this tournament. And once again, since 1950, England cannot beat USA at soccer. We took them down in 1776. We took them down in 1812, and we still take them down in the World Cup. That is just ironic. And then we get to Iran. Iran, you gotta give them props for their bravery. They refused to sing their national anthem, and this is not the case how it happens here in the U.S., but they were doing it to protest the Islamic government that they have because of what happened to a woman who refused to wear her hijab, and this is one of those cases where her death was mysterious circumstances. She was in the hospital one day and then she disappeared. Nobody knew where she went. And so the players did not do it, but then the Iranian government told them, if you do not sing, we're going after your families. That's on record. And so there's that. They ended up beating Wales 2-0, and quickly on that Wales game, the goalkeeper did something so stupid. I don't know why he had to come out and he karate kicked the Iranian into the chest and he got a straight red. That was straight red. I don't know why he did that. That's why Iran won that game. And then we get to USA versus Iran. Before the game, there was an Iranian journalist that was trying to get into our captain's head to try to call out our country for what happened in 2020, the George Floyd incident and everything. Tyler Adams, and he warned Tyler Adams, please do not say Iran. Say Iran, not Iran. And so Tyler Adams apologized, but then he said, that being said, there's discrimination everywhere, man. There's discrimination in other countries. I've been to other countries where there's discrimination, but you gotta learn how to fight with it and everything. We made progress in our country and all that. And that was the classiest I ever heard. Maybe LeBron James should take some notes from this player, Tyler Adams. Now we get into USA versus Iran. This game, political. It was political from the beginning, son, because back in 1998, USA faced Iran. There were still tensions. Iran beat us 2-1. They eliminated us from the World Cup. So in a way, we returned the favor. Christian Pulisic scored possibly one of the most bravest goals I've ever seen because he sacrificed his groin area to score that goal. And we had to play defense like what the 49ers have to do all the time. They held on. And for 9 extra minutes, of course, there were 2 times where Iran tried to get a penalty inside the box, But no, we stood strong. We beat Iran, and the moment we beat them, we went to confront the players because it was sad. Iran, they were once again one step closer to getting to the knockout stage, but we did what we had to do, and I felt this shut a lot of critics up because as you know, the World Cup's coming to USA, Mexico, and Canada. We're going to have 48 teams and all that, and qualifying is going to begin very soon. And I know and I think we should talk about the Women's World Cup coming up, but I just got to say, USA, in my opinion, did so much better than Mexico, even though we didn't score that many goals. But we did prove to everyone that soccer may not be our number one sport, but we're going to get there. And the moment we win that World Cup, whenever it'll happen in my lifetime or in another lifetime, we'll finally shut everybody up.
So, best player, you have, obviously Messi being a hometown hero now and bringing Argentina World Cup. You mentioned some other great ones. If you were to look at this one, was Messi the top player in this World Cup? Was there someone better? And then B, who's the couple maybe over the course of World Cup history you think were some of the greatest players to ever play in World Cup?
Well, in the 20th century, I've got to have to give it to two of the greatest, Pele and Maradona, because Pele was the youngest player to ever win the World Cup. Then you have Maradona in 1986, leading Argentina to the FIFA World Cup. And my dad, he despises Argentina, but he loved Maradona because Maradona was one of the best players ever. And for the 21st century, you got to give it to Ronaldo and Messi, but at the end of the day, the 21st century player of all time, it has to be Messi.
And then you mentioned the Women's World Cup. It's coming to Australia and New Zealand, July 20th through August 19th, this coming summer, in fact. Your thoughts on what we can expect coming from the Women's World Cup?
Well, the funny thing is that back in the 2020 Olympics, I was at a period where I didn't want to see USA win another title or anything, but it wasn't because of Megan Rapinoe. It was because I felt the U.S. women accomplished everything. They did. And when they lost to Canada, I was relieved, but now I do want them. I'm finally back supporting them because I feel this is the World Cup where they have to try the three-peat, something that has not been done in any tournament of soccer, unless you talk club soccer. So they're going into a country where now it's 32 teams. The 2015 and 2019 World Cups were 24 teams, and I attended both of those World Cups in both Canada and France. USA, they have been struggling a bit. They qualified for the World Cup. Obviously, that's one of the easiest qualifying stages for them, but their friendlies have not been. How do you say? Everyone will say it's just a friendly. It's just a friend. No, when you lose to multiple teams in a year, there is something inherently wrong because they had chances and chances. But maybe when we get to the World Cup in Australia and New Zealand, and maybe in February, if you have me back here, son, I'll talk about the final round of qualifying because that's going to decide whether or not I feel USA is going to go and win this World Cup. But I feel with many other countries getting better, Australia, of course, they're going to be the host nation. New Zealand, who haven't advanced to the next round of the World Cup, maybe this will be their year. If they meet USA, any team that meets USA, they're not going to get scared. They're not Brazil. They're not the men's version of Brazil. They are beatable, and that's what worries me. And yes, you have Megan Rapinoe, everyone's favorite person, but maybe the young generation will finally show up and actually get us to this Susie right here, as you see right here. But like I said, I can't decide who's going to win until the last three spots are decided because I don't like to start something incomplete and then get completely bamboozled at the end. That's me. So in 7 months, we'll see what happens.
And then real quick, how did you get that thing? The trophy? That's pretty cool.
Okay. Fast story. 2014, went to a soccer store owned by a German man who I'm friends with. Had this as a door placement holder, and I asked, how much? And he's like, you want to buy that? And I said, yeah. He said 75. Deal. Of course, my mom was angry I spent money on this thing, but she's grown to like it. And
well, yeah, because that's the cool thing. Because you had the PA announcer for what the
LA Galaxy.
Yeah, the Galaxy come and do an interview and stuff, and you brought that in. That was like the coolest thing ever. And so again, now when you have World Cup and stuff like that, you've got your trophy that you can kind of flaunt around, and that's kind of cool. So I like that. That's awesome.
Yep. Real fast, Mike. Sorry, I confused you with my good friend John. Are you hoping to? Because I think there will be a game in Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken, when the World Cup comes here. Would you? When you leave from LA to go visit people in Minnesota during the summer of 26?
Oh, definitely. Definitely have to probably go and try to catch some games, right? And whether it be a combination of World Cup, baseball, whatever it might be. But yeah, definitely if the U.S. Is hosting World Cup, that is something that definitely must go see this time around, because I followed it. I follow World Cup, not as much as you. That's why I'm talking to you about it, because you're the expert on it. But I'd love to go see World Cup, and that might be something to plan for in 2026.
Yeah, along with Canada, Mexico, and all that. Real fast, just to double check if it's going to be coming to Arizona. Minnesota. Real fast. No. Kansas, Atlanta, Houston, Seattle, all those.
Well, Miami places to go check it out and travel to, because I'm always down for traveling, as people know, and I'm always down for going someplace I've never been. So that'd be kind of cool. Josterio, awesome have you on the program. I guess we're more talking to John Jermoxican with your insights in World Cup. So how many World Cups have you gone to?
Believe it or not, 1999 was when I went to go see the U.S. women win on penalties at the Rose Bowl. I was 4 at the time, but Dad started that. Then 2006 went to Germany. Then 2015 and 2019 the Women's World Cup as well. So yeah, I was planning to go to Australia and New Zealand, but not too expensive at this point. Well, if the Copa America is coming back in 2024 in USA, I'll probably do that. 2026, definitely. And you also got the Olympics in 28. So it's going to be a big, I would say 4-year span for soccer in the United States.
Yeah. And like you said, you got World Cup here in North America in 26, and you got the Olympics in LA in 28. It's going to be a lot of busy time to check out some soccer in the next couple of years. So, hey, we appreciate you coming on. Thanks so much for all your insights. And yeah, we'll definitely have to do this again, because this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think the next time we meet, we got to talk wrestling, because as you know, WrestleMania is coming to Los Angeles.
Yeah, and I've been watching a couple of wrestling videos from some old-time wrestlers. And I know a lot of people don't like wrestling, or they might think this or that of it. But when you really get into it, it's kind of a cool thing to see how these wrestlers are and what they're like. So maybe we'll catch up on that next time. So again, we'd like to thank our guest today, Josterio, also known as John Jermoxican. And let's thank you for listening. You can check out our website, radiowarp.com. That's radio, W-A-R-P, radiowarp.com. And you can also click on the show link, and then all the shows come up. There's also a link to our SoundCloud account where you can listen and download the audio and take it with you on the go. You can listen anywhere you listen to podcasts. Pick out your favorite podcast platform and log on and listen to the show. And you can also check us out or follow us on Instagram at TWO, 2 Steps Ahead Podcast. And finally, you can email the show at TWO, 2 Steps Ahead Podcast at gmail.com. All else fails, just go, hey, Google, hey, Siri, hey, Alexa, play TWO, 2 Steps Ahead Podcast, and we pop up. Hey, thanks for listening. Do tell a friend. Take your passion. Make it happen. Let yourself be great. And until next time, God bless.